With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
On this episode of Into the Fray, I welcome Debbie back on with me, and this will be the Elemental Part 4. Debbie has been on for episodes 311, 340, 426, and of course some Patreon episodes. We've done those as well. So Debbie has so much activity that she keeps a journal, and she has dates for everything. I'm sure she probably can narrow down the time of day, not that we need to do that, but on 311, 340, and 426 and the Patreon episodes, we spoke about elementals, a predator type being, black masses, shadow people, FRAY activity, classic ghost activity, and UFOs. And I touched base with Debbie. Of course, she's over on Patreon, and we're all on Discord and chatting all the time. And she's always saying, I still have these things going on. I'm still writing in my journal. And with the email that she sent, as I request with most people, especially if they have several types of experiences and encounters, shoot over a bullet point list. And she did. But in the opening of the bullet point list, she goes, well, these are the small, or excuse me, these don't include the small daily occurrences. And the quote unquote small daily occurrences would probably have me selling my house or cleansing it or doing something. I would probably freak out for most of these, because here's some of the small things that Debbie goes through and that she's just kind of used to at this point. Figures around her house and her workplace, what she has dubbed the house elf, which we have talked about many times on parts 1 to 3, knocks, bangs, tapping, probably the UFOs outside still. All of these things are just these small, quote unquote, daily occurrences. And so it's the larger things that she put in the bullet point list that we are going to cover now on part 4. But Debbie, let's talk for a moment. First of all, welcome back. Thank you for doing this. But let's talk a moment about these small things.
If I'll give you an example. So yesterday, I went into work and I was the only person in the building. So this is like, 900 square foot or something building. So I was the only person in the building. And we have a radio at the back of the building, which I turn on just as like a background noise. So I'd been in on Sunday and everything was turned off, everything was all unplugged and everything. And went in, opened up, went towards the back to turn the radio on and got within 10 feet and it turned on for me. We have a ghost in that shop, and just sort of like I'm guessing it was I'll be helpful.
Yeah, it's too bad they weren't always like that, right? They're not always very friendly and not scary. There's some things that we're going to be talking about today and things that we've already talked about that are not pleasant to see, and that most people I think would, as I said before, we would be getting on the phone and calling the Ghostbusters basically.
Yeah, but you get used to it, I think. Well, I get used to it sometimes.
I know you're used to it. You are a badass.
I'll just qualify that sometimes.
Well, yeah, this, I'll just say this, and I'm sure that at some points in time we will quickly reference the previous episodes, but I highly encourage anybody to go back and just consume some of those that we have already spoken about, because yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and it runs the gamut, which a lot of you guys that have these, gifts, for lack of a better term, or you have this flame that the moths that are out there are attracted to, You guys have a lot of different kinds of experiences, and this part 4 will be no different than 1 to 3. So, okay, Debbie, and can we, as much as you want to, of course, let everybody know where you are. What area of the world are we speaking about?
So I'm in the UK. I'm in Somerset, and I'm right down on the Dorset, Devon, Somerset border. So I'm probably about 20 miles from Glastonbury. So lots of green countryside, lots of like cows and farming and things like that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the country for sure. So let's dive in right out of the gate. First on the list is the Watchers.
Okay. So I've just given you a list of the big things that happened since the last time I spoke to you. And then I was a little bit shocked that it was only 7 months. So as part of my job, I actually go all over the country to work, basically. And the Watchers was up in Glasgow and on the way back from Glasgow. So I'd been and done an exhibition, and it was one of those serendipitous things that, you know, you haven't seen someone for years and then you're next door to them and we spent the entire exhibition, you know, chatting and catching up. And actually I've just remembered. So when we were talking about places we'd been and things we like to go, and we both had been to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. And she happened to have a couple of pebbles from the Valley of the Kings and said, would you like one, just as like a souvenir for you to remember Egypt? And as she handed me this pebble, it was a little bit like Indiana Jones, you know, when all the cobwebs get blown. That's what happened to my hair. There was this absolute like breeze went down the back of my hair, lifted all my hair up, and it was a warm breeze. And this was March in Glasgow in an exhibition centre. So no breeze. It was freezing cold. And we were inside an exhibition centre, and we both watched my hair being lifted up by this breeze. I'd completely forgotten that. So anyway, as we were packing up, she said to me, I've just had this thought and it's really dropped in my head. You need to be careful at Shap. So Shap is on the way back down. It's a really high point in the Lake District where the motorway is quite high and there's a steep drop off the motorway. And she's like, I don't know why you Shap. You've got to be careful at Shap. So we left, packed up, and we were just driving back in the van, you know, just chatting and just like drinking coffee and all this sort of stuff. We got to Shap just as it was starting to get dark. Not dark enough that you couldn't see anything, but just sort of like dusk where you could still see all the outlines of the trees and the bushes and everything on the hillside. And on the hillside, just below the summit, as we passed, there were 3 hooded figures, maybe about 7 foot tall, and they were just solid black, but you could see them turning to watch, because we'd got a hire van, to watch the van as it went past. And there was these huge gusts of wind trying to almost blow us off the motorway while they were watching us. It was they weren't, the feeling you got for them was just like completely didn't care. We were irrelevant. They were just watching us. And I asked when I got home, I said, you were really, really, really on the, you know, money about Shap. And she said, oh, I think you saw the Watchers. but I've been unable to find anything else about them. I found out a lot of folklore in that area. There's standing stones at Shap. There is an abbey, a ruined abbey, which had there's sort of like a coffin path and witches and all this sort of stuff. So lots and lots and lots of folklore, but I couldn't find anything about the Watchers. The only reference I have is the ones that are supposed to be in America on the is it the Big Sur?
Yes, yes, the Watchers are at least the most famous stories that I know of them are out of California. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only reference. They were solid black, wearing cloaks with the hoods up, and they were very tall, 6 or 7 feet tall.
How far away do you suppose you guys were from them?
The motorway goes along the edge of that mountainside. Maybe 100 feet, maybe less.
I mean, did you get any kind of feeling when you saw them, Debbie? I mean, you're pretty astute with that kind of stuff.
We were very small, very irrelevant. That's what I got.
All right. Well, next up, we've got the white figure on the landing.
Right. Okay. So this first appeared, I've got on the 13th of April, but it has been in and out of the house. I've noted it on my notes in June, July, and August. And definitely in July, we had a lot of activity. I've seen it mostly on the landing. I've seen it once downstairs. It is definitely in the house. It looks like it's about 3.5 to 4 foot high. Very pale grey cream. And it just looks outside the door watching. You can't really see any hair, but it's got quite big eyes and features, sort of like eyes. You notice the eyes, you don't really notice anything else, and it just watches you. When you approach, and I will approach these things, it disappears, it scoots back, and you can't find it. You can search the house and you will not find it again. At the same time, when it's there, you'll sometimes hear really strange, like metallic noises or thumps or bangs. It never makes a sound. The thing it really, really reminds me of is, you know, the Scream painting?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a head like that.
Oh. And
like like a really smooth, round little head.
So does it ever turn around, or do you always see the back of it because you're trying to approach it?
You always see the front.
You always see the front of it?
Yeah. And it's always just watching.
Yeah. Do you get the sense that it's positive or negative?
I get the sense that it's there with a purpose. So its purpose is to watch what we're doing.
The metallic noises is something that comes up in so many different kinds of phenomena. In fact, Martin Groves, in one of his experiences with Dogman out in the middle of the woods, talks about hearing this. I mean, it's completely out of place where he was, and so is it at your house. But even more so, I would assume in the middle of the woods, especially if you're by yourself, the last thing you want to hear is these metallic noises. And of course, the thought is this somehow them, when they manifest, whatever term you want to use for that, manifest into our side of things, into our dimension, in and out. What do you think these metallic noises are? Because it's not the first time that we've heard about this.
I think exactly that, because there was something that happened in July, which we'll get to, which I actually think was partial portal or portal closing or opening, and I think that's how they come in and out. I don't think they're here all the time. This white figure is not here all the time, but it's always watching, and it's watching through an open door. So it's never fully in the room with you. It's always in the next room watching.
And then how close can you get to it before it poofs out of existence?
The moment you start making a move towards it,
okay,
it disappears.
Oh, I've always loved that about you, Debbie, and people will learn that if they go back and listen, is that you are not afraid to confront these things.
No, I want to understand, so I will go towards it.
Now, you also mentioned in tandem with this figure that you have electronics that go haywire.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been quite haywire today, everything. And things are sometimes put in my way like this to stop me doing things. And I just will not stop. So I am currently talking to you on the third computer I tried.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, my gosh. Oh, jeez.
So it took me an hour to actually get it all set up.
Oh my gosh. And you know what's funny, Debbie, is that normally I'll send the link about, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes before, but not usually an hour. I literally sent it, just about like 55 minutes before we were going to hop on, or 65 minutes literally to the minute. And something told me to do that. So I guess you needed that extra time, see?
I did. Yeah. Because so this is on one that I don't normally use.
Oh my gosh.
It was just, you get things like that, so things will reset. I had where we've got like a Bose, like, radio, turned that on. There were no channels on it at all. Every single channel had gone. When I was playing it earlier on, turned it back on, nothing at all. The whole thing was just white noise. And then my iPad, which was near it, started playing a podcast about a poltergeist.
Oh, what?
Really? Not even a podcast that I downloaded.
What? See, and isn't that incredible? Because to you, that's a small thing, right? I mean, right. Yeah. That's just another little added bonus on top of all these other quote unquote larger things. But if I had something like that happen in tandem with a couple of other small things, I would be calling that a big thing.
So I just thought it was funny. It's like, really? Really? Do you really? Am I supposed to listen to this instead of what I wanted to listen to?
What a sense of humor they have sometimes, right?
They do. I think they do. Absolutely. Like yesterday with the radio, I'm going to be helpful. And the ghost we have in here has not been helpful at times. It's rearranged everything, or it's been annoyed and put things in the middle of the floor, or you're just like, no, thank you.
And this was a classic, like an actual radio, not a podcast player, not like Sirius XM satellite. It's an actual radio that had no channels.
Yeah, it's like a Bose radio CD thing.
I gotcha. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and it completely retuned itself
That's
out
weird.
To just white noise. There were no preset channels. I couldn't get the CD to go in or out. I couldn't do anything with it, and it was fine, sort of like an hour before.
That's weird.
And then my iPad just started playing, which was really funny.
Debbie, you're supposed to listen only to podcasts about poltergeist. Don't you know that? I mean, you live it every day. Why would you want to hear more about poltergeist? I mean, come on. That's
a sense of humor. You've got to say that's a sense of humor.
Yeah, absolutely it is. That's great. See, and I love that. That wasn't even on the list because to you, that's a small thing. I love it. All right. So next up in April, you talk about the helpful in ghost.
Yes, this was, well, it was a ghost that I think was trying to be helpful. So, as I said, we go all over the country for work. And this time I was in Wales, and it was a place I'd stayed at before. And it's an old coaching inn. And we booked late, so we didn't have the usual room that we stay in, which was the floor below. We were right up in the attic. And got there, set up whatever we were going to do, had a meal, and then we were just back in the hotel room. And I didn't unpack everything. I just put my makeup bag on the dressing table. And I woke up several times during the night thinking there's someone sat on the edge of the bed. And my husband's next to me, like snoring away. Just like, it's not him. There is somebody sat on the edge of the bed. I could feel somebody walking up and down the room. I could then hear thumps and clinks and bangs, and, like heavy things were being picked up and dropped in the room. And this was quite a small room. And the next morning, when I woke up, my makeup bag had been opened. The things had been taken out of it and lined up on the dressing table for use.
Now, when you see that, does that, at this point, you're just like, of course it did. Of course it lined up everything ready for me to do my thing. Or do you even mention that to your husband? I know he's quite used to these things by now. What goes on after you see this?
I asked him if he got up in the middle of the night. I know he didn't. And it's just like, I'm just checking. Did you do that in the middle of the night? No. You saw what, when I unpacked, you saw that I just left it there. Yes. So why is it unpacked? We couldn't explain it. I did ask at reception, and they had a ghost hunting team in that room. Couldn't find out anymore because they hadn't been told anymore, because they had just left like the week before. All I got the impression of was it was somebody who used to work there, a female, came over as a female spirit who was being helpful, because that's what she would do.
I guess that is preferable to standing over you in bed, or like the old hag syndrome, being choked in the middle of the night. That's quite nice, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, I got the impression it was somebody young, not old, and that's their job. Their job was to help travellers, because it was a coaching inn. It used to be, so there would be travellers coming and going all the time. So I don't know. But the next night, so we were there 2 nights, much, much calmer. There was a little bit of walking around and footsteps that you could hear, but nothing like the night before. No one sitting on the end of the bed, or standing really close to the edge of the bed, pressing against the edge of the bed, which would happen the night before, almost so you could feel like a dress against your face, thinking, I don't like this, I can feel somebody. And then in the early hours, the whole room just suddenly got bathed in this golden light, and then it switched off like a light switch.
Oh,
very,
wow.
very, very funny.
Now, what about your husband? Did he feel the dress rubbing against him, or feel the weight?
No, he was the other side. He was the other side,
so
the other side of the bed. So he didn't feel that at all.
But it never went over.
No, he didn't.
Wow. Yeah.
No, he didn't feel anything. But he's very, very much like, oh no, not more paranormal goo. Just leave me alone.
You're like, listen, you're with me. This is gonna happen.
Exactly.
You already know.
Exactly. But I just think that it was just somebody being very helpful, just somebody carrying on doing their job, that they were travellers, so they were helping the travellers. So I didn't feel that there was anything threatening in it at all.
Now we're going to move to July, and we are going to talk about a man in black.
Yeah. So since when did he first appear? So the man in black has been watching me and watching the house for probably since I first spoke to you. So a couple of years. He made it inside the house once after we had, I think, one of the Patreon conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got bruises. That's when I did get bruises from him. But he's always stood in the garden watching the house. And very pale, slim, wears a suit, slick back hair, tie. Very malevolent. So I don't particularly like it at all. And I asked Roy to actually speak to me about it. He's another Patreon member, and what I could do about this man in black, because I found him threatening. He showed me how to put wards up to actually ring fence the house so he could not get to me. He did confirm it was a man in black. He did confirm, because he remote viewed, that it was an alien type entity, and that they were not happy that I even existed.
Well, that's comforting, isn't it? You're like, great, thanks. That's, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It just makes you go, oh.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do about that? Great.
Yeah. So he showed me how to put wards up. Brilliant. To push it back outside the boundaries. So I put these wards up, and yeah, the whole place felt so much brighter. There was more bird song, there was everything. And then I came into the room I'm in now, which is at the front of the house, and he's standing by the front window looking in. So where I'd never, ever seen him before. Looking in, really close to the glass, and I'd forgotten to put a ward up on that side. So put this boundary up on that side, completely disappeared. Now he stands on my neighbour's property looking at me, but he can't get inside the wards. I think it's almost like they've got a watching brief on what I'm doing or what I'm thinking or where I am or what I'm doing. I think as long as I stay in a protected bubble, I'm okay.
Yeah, because this is the dude that, just like you described at that one room that you forgot to put the word up initially, you would go around certain areas of the house and he would just be, as you said, standing just outside the house, just outside the glass, just the creeper in the window, just looking in.
Yep. Yep. Always watching, always standing. In fact, I've gone up to shut the chickens up, and we've got chickens at the top of the garden. I've gone up to the top of the garden when it's dark, and as I've got to the chicken house, I've thought, I've just walked past a pair of shoes standing off the path, and there's some suit legs, and I'm just going to have to walk past him again on the way back. So he's there at all times. Now he stands under a tree in my neighbour's garden to watch the house. I don't know what to do about it. It's there.
And this is the same neighbor that at some point there was something tall, like in the back of a truck or something, and it was just this very strange set of circumstances, right? This is the same neighbor's house?
It is the same neighbor's house, and it is the same figure.
And the neighbor doesn't have The Shining. They cannot see these things, right?
No, they can't see them at all.
Probably good.
And I'm quite glad they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I would I would hazard to say so. Now, refresh my memory a little bit about what happens when you walk towards or try to confront this guy.
So when I first saw him, he was standing on the neighbour's driveway, and we were sat around the dining table just chatting, and we made eye contact. Oh, I made eye contact with him, and there was just pure hate and evil coming off this man. Well, I say man, this thing. And I actually thought it was the Jehovah's Witnesses going to visit. I looked down and I looked up and he was gone. I saw my neighbour on the back of a pickup truck trimming the tree that he stands under. About a week later, and my neighbour's head was at the same height that this figure had been. So this entity, whatever it was floating in midair to try and make eye contact with me. So that was the first time. Then it stood in the garden for a long time. And then when we had the Patreon chat with Tina, and that was a long time ago, wasn't it? About a year ago, I think. Can't remember. It appeared in the corner of our bedroom, and I physically, mentally had to fight it off, and I had bruises all the way up my arm the next day.
And just to let everybody know, that Patreon chat was all ladies that all have these same types of experiences. None of them are exactly the same, of course, but you could put them all in a general WTF box because they run the gamut. All of you guys. That's why I had you on. It was the same reason that I covered that very chat and all of you guys' separate episodes for Ryan's Anomicon, because yes, it's all different experiences, but they're all the same, if that makes any sense. So we think, of course, that having all of you very powerful and gifted ladies on at the same time, I don't know how or why, and unfortunately, it was using that somehow while we were all chatting on, this quote unquote channel in this studio, and it actually got in.
It did. I think it didn't like being spoken about, or it didn't like the connections between all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It was, or is, very malevolent. That's the only way I can describe it.
So now that the wars are up all the way around the house, you see him at the neighbor's house, or if you walk down the path that you like to walk.
Oh, no, we've never seen him there.
Really? See, now why would that be? Isn't that strange?
That's really strange. Never seen it there.
I mean,
that is really strange.
Yeah, that is so weird because, and again, we're not going to rehash everything we've already talked about because we have plenty to cover on this edition. But I mean, there's FRAY and there's not deer and there's portals down this path right by Debbie's house. And yeah, you think that he would. Isn't that funny? It's like he's been kicked out of the club or something. He's not allowed over there.
Yeah, or that's his assigned position and he has to stay there, or that, that's weird, isn't it?
That's an interesting way to think about it. That might be the accurate description of that. Yeah. You got to watch out for you, Debbie. He knows your trouble.
Yeah, but I'm not going to give up there, am I?
I know you won't. I know that. All right, so next up, we are moving to the portal in the house and the metallic noises on the landing.
Yeah, and this is really, really, really weird. And this is me saying it, so it is really weird. So we've been seeing this pale figure on the landing. And so in our bedroom, the bed faces, we've got two windows that look out on the back, and our bed faces that, so nothing can creep up on me, because I will not look out of the bedroom window at night, either of them. So our headboard of the bed is against the wall, and the other side is the landing. We were in bed, just reading, and I had a really, really, really weird feeling that the top half of the bed was twisted round a few degrees. So the bed was straight up to a certain point, and then it went sort of round a bend, like it wasn't in the same dimension, or something had skewed completely. I spoke to my husband. He was like, yeah, it feels a bit weird, but I think, it's the heat because it's hot and everybody's tired. And yeah, he wasn't entirely sure. But this continued until about 2:30 in the morning. And then there was a metallic electronic machine noise, a beep. The whole of the bed and the room seemed to rotate anti-clockwise about 10 degrees and audibly click back in place. Really, really weird. Don't know how you explain that, unless it's something that had opened on the landing and was seeping through the wall. I just don't understand. But this was about 1 a.m. to 3:30 in the morning. Before that, and I really hope it was a dream and that I was asleep, I had I really do hope it was a dream, that I'm going to call it a dream, that there were beings around the bed and they were trying to get me to go through the window and go up, and that it was time to go away and go up. And I completely resisted.
That is a window that not only would you go out the damn thing, you don't even look out those windows. That is something we have talked about a lot. So for them to try to get you to go through those windows, of all windows, that is not going to happen. So I also hope that was a dream. How many of them were there?
2.
Well, what do they look like?
I'm tall, grey, fairly cloaked, like wearing like a cloak thing. They were very insistent. They were very that it's time. It's time for you to go up. You need to go up. You need to come and you need to go up. And I was very insistent that I wasn't going to.
I mean, that's extremely heavy in the category of classic alien type stuff, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's heavy alien abduction stuff.
That's why I'm glad. Well, not glad. I like to think of it as a dream, but it was before the bed rotated back through the 10 degrees and clicked back in place.
Was your husband asleep for the bed moving?
No. He noticed something weird, but he couldn't really say what it was. Neither of us. It was a sensation of moving, and the whole top of the bed rotated and clicked back.
What about when the beings were there? Did you get a sense that he was awake, asleep, or quote unquote turned off, as they will do?
I think turned off, because he had his Kindle in his hand, but nothing seems to be going on.
Mm. And at least on my Kindle on my phone, if it's inactive for 5 or 10 minutes, if I'm not, quote unquote, turning a page, it shuts off. So
Yeah.
would it have shut off automatically if he wasn't interacting with it?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
And no, it didn't.
Wow. Oh boy. Have we talked before that of something that you could put right in this same category that we've spoken about, to where we could go, oh, that sounds like classic alien abduction type activity? Have we said those words before?
No, but it's uncomfortably close to that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't like that one at all, and I do hope that was a dream. That's not.
I hope it was a dream, but it was just so funny that it was that, and then we were both awake because we were both talking as the bed and the top of the room seemed to rotate and click, because we commented on the metallic sound and this weird sensation of moving.
Now, you've already commented on also the time frame. So to your knowledge or to his knowledge, there wasn't this hours of missing time or anything, right?
Not as far as I can't say for sure, because it was in the early hours of the morning, but it was
Right.
like 2 or 3 hours in the morning.
Right.
And we are never normally awake for 2 or 3 hours in the early hours of the morning.
And what if the bed moving wasn't even actually your bed? What if, I mean, this is like going way off, but as we shall do, right? What if that wasn't even your bed that you guys were moving on? What if you were already aboard the craft and being moved around? I don't know. That's just totally going left field. So that was just, I don't know.
It could be anything. It is one of the weirdest things, and I can't explain it.
Yeah, that's an uncomfortable one. I was not expecting that, to be honest with you, Debbie. And these are all very weird, but now I know why you're like, this one kind of got me, and now I see why. So,
Yeah,
all right.
it did. And I was very insistent that I am not going. That I'm not going up. I am not doing that.
It's so worrisome, because these stories of the aliens abducting people, they have different varying levels of things that they can do to, again, turn people off, to make them forget, to put screen memories. You didn't see this. It's happy, happy, happy. Enjoy your sweet dreams. But sometimes they do seem to F it up. And I don't know if that's on purpose, or if somebody needs to be fired on their end because they dropped the ball. But sometimes things seem to seep in. Not always, because people can have weird stuff going on for years, and they're like, I know something happened, but I just can't remember what. Or they'll see like these, 4-foot tall friggin' owls or something in the road, and you're going, well, that's not an owl, like in The Fourth Kind. But I don't know. I don't know about this one. I don't like it.
No, I don't like it. And I'm just looking at my notes, and it says on the 2nd or the 3rd of August. So, 2 or 3 days later, overnight, and I'm reading this directly, another visitation stroke dream like before. See entry above. I remembered less this time, but they appeared while I was reading a book before falling asleep. Told the entities to F off and leave me alone because I was too tired to talk to them.
Oh, man. And that was it.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad in a way that I do keep notes, because you forget everything otherwise.
Yes. Do you think that you wrote that entry that, like, as they happen, you put them in, or the next morning, like, you put them in the next day?
I put them in as soon as possible.
That's great.
So I have it on my iPad and on my phone, and I add them in as soon as I can.
See, and it sounded like such a, besides being standing in your bedroom, the way that you worded that, it almost sounds like just like a person trying to talk to another person and they just didn't feel like chatting at that moment. It almost, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounded like such an almost normal thing. Like, just F off. I don't feel like talking right now. Not that most people talk like that to each other. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't as if beings had intruded into your most sacred space again, by the way, and then you're just telling them to go away.
Yeah.
Even that journal entry is kind of strange to me. I'm so glad you do that, though.
Why is it strange?
Well, because of the way that you worded it. You didn't say the creepy Fs came back and obviously were trying to, maybe take me again or talk, like I said, it was almost as if you were just matter of fact saying these things showed up again and I just told them to F off. Like, there wasn't a lot of alarm, I guess is what I'm saying. It was more just a matter of fact entry, which that's what a journal is. I'm just saying that, I don't know, it just seems like they're really tamping down your reactions maybe to some of this stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, now you say it. Yes. Yeah. Because you should be going, yeah.
Yeah, like they came back. What the F is this? What are they, who are they? What do they want? Why do you want me to go out this effing window that I won't even look out? So I definitely won't go out that window. Try harder, Yeah, it just seems like they're just they're muffling you.
Yes. Yeah, now you mention it. He's just like, oh, okay.
That's why the journal is just such a genius thing for you to do. And I could be way off on that. It's just,
I'm really glad I do keep it. It's about 26,000 words at the moment.
Wow. Wow.
It is full of entries like that, and I put them in as soon as I possibly can. Often as I'm actually, just as soon as it's happened.
And not to say, and we've already mentioned this, you are so used to this stuff, that could also play into it as well. Like my whole, they're muffling you and tamping you down. But you're also very used to this stuff. So, playing devil's advocate, maybe it's just that, right? I mean, it could just be that. You're very used to things like this. But the fact that the incident in July was quite jarring, I would think that them coming back just a couple weeks later would get a more, I don't know, something different in the journal than that. So.
That was the next entry. It was 2 days later.
Oh, 2 days later. Oh, God.
2 days.
Oh, geez. I don't know about that one, Debbie. I don't like that.
No.
Well, and you wonder, did they actually try again? Go up, very insistent, and maybe you forgot that part? Or did they not, did they not get to that part? Like what went on? Like how much did they make you forget, if anything?
Possibly. You have no idea. I've seen when we've had some FRAY interaction on that path, I've seen the glamour work on my husband. We've come out and he's gone, oh, no, did you see that? Or did you? And then within 2 or 3 minutes, he's like, see what? What did I say? No, I didn't say. What are you talking about? And you can see it happening.
See, and that has to be frustrating because you personally have so much, and occasionally your husband is part of things and does remember things, but then there's instances like that, and you're like, wait, no, you just said you saw this and that, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see it happening.
Oh,
It's like, no.
there's that
That's
trick. There's that trickster element to the whole thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
okay. So speaking of the path, that's a perfect segue because that's where we are going next. And this is the path that I mentioned earlier. A lot of crazy shisa has gone down on this path.
Yes, it has and still continues to happen because there is something later on which again is another really weird thing. So it's often nothing there, often just a nice walk. But in August we went down and it was very weird. There were footsteps all around us. There was like a clicky, you know, like the alien predator clicky noise. There's a part in the middle of the path which has got holly, and this clicky noise was behind this wall of holly, and you could hear something moving around in it, but you can see the bottom of the holly and you can see there's nothing moving around. You could just hear something walking through. There was also, and we're sort of like whispering to one another, like, there's something in there. Could you hear that? And then we got whistled at, as in a, it can't, almost like a, come here, come here, come in here. And I'm like, really, I don't want to come in here. And then it whistled again as a almost like a come here, I need some help. But we could see no one. We could hear the clicking, we could hear the footsteps, but there was nothing at all visible, and there were footsteps all the way around us. We left shortly after.
Yeah, that is a very active part of where you live. And another thing to mention that you and we really put together, I don't know which episode it was, but the fact that you have a running stream or underneath the house, right? You have moving
Yeah.
water that goes underneath your home,
Mhm.
which we surmise might have something to do with this, or at least help these types of phenomena along in more ways than one, probably. All right, when I saw this on the list, I was like, what in the hell is this? I'm interested to hear. It says tripping over a large animal.
Oh yeah, yes. This was quite funny. So this I think goes all the way back to the original elemental we had in the house, and I think it might have come back in. So I was walking across the room again. I was in the house on my own, walking across the room from the front door, and my foot slipped under something that wasn't there, and I tripped over a large animal. I could feel it make contact all the way up to my knee. So it was, you could feel the fur, you could feel the muscle, you could feel this whole animal, and it looked like it had, or it felt like it had been sleeping on the rug by the front door, and I just happened to walk straight into it and tripped over it. And I'm just thinking, what the heck was that? And then you could hear footsteps, like 4 footsteps, animal footsteps, scrabbling up and then running up the stairs. Nothing at all visible. I went upstairs, searched the house, top to bottom, nothing at all visible, nothing out of place, no other sort of, you know, contact with it. It was this, I would say it was like tripping over a large dog that was sleeping.
So do you surmise this is your house elf that has again changed forms? Because we've talked before about the house elf taking, essentially mimicking or being a doppelganger for one of your kittens.
It could be. It's usually smaller. The house elf is usually like cat-sized.
So to you, this is something different.
This was something different, and I tripped over it, and it jumped up and ran upstairs.
That always, a lot of things go on also at the bottom of the stairs and up and down the stairs. Where the hell does it go? That's my question. It ran up the stairs. Where did it go? Where did it come from?
Where does it get? Exactly.
Like what?
Exactly. I searched the house and could not find anything. And there was nothing visible at the time. That's what it was so shocking. I was just walking across the room, nothing in my way, and tripped over this large animal.
Now, did you get the sense that, once you hit this, you hear it scrabbling away and up the stairs, did you get this sense like, oh, that was something not good? Or was it just, neutral?
Neutral. That's why I wonder if it was the elemental that was in here before, that it had got back in somehow, whether it had come in through the stream that goes under the house. I just don't know, but it was, you could feel it. I could feel on my leg as I tripped over it, I could feel the muscle mass of this creature. I could feel the fur, and I could just absolutely feel I had hit something solid, and something, tripped over a solid animal.
I don't know. That's creepy to me. Because really, where did it then go? Why is it there? What is it doing? Why? I don't know. See,
I don't know. I don't know where it went. I don't know.
Well, is the house elf, you did mention, of course, that's part of the quote-unquote small things. Is the house elf still in the form of the kitten? Or is it just kind of being this fleeting black mass in the corner of your, in your periphery?
It's sometimes a tabby kitten, sometimes it's a black one.
Yeah.
You'll sometimes see it walking across the room. It quite likes sitting on top of the fridge. So yeah, it just wanders around. It's quite happy. Doesn't really interact that much, apart from when I had COVID. I had COVID quite badly, and it sat by my feet the entire time.
See, doesn't that make you wonder, though, this larger animal that you have tripped over, is this an animal that we would know what the hell it is? Is it something that looks like something from Ghostbusters covered in hair? Like, Gozer's demon dogs? We don't know. Maybe it's a good thing you couldn't see it.
I have no idea. It was just a large animal I tripped over that wasn't visible. You could hear it, but it wasn't visible.
And then you've never, to your knowledge, it's obviously invisible unless you tripped over it again. Who knows if it's sitting right next to you right now?
That would be good. I've heard it walking around the house.
Oh. And it sounds like something large that has some kind of like claws or nails or something?
Yeah, like a dog.
Oh. Do you try to talk to it?
And it felt like a large dog. You know how dogs can be quite muscly, can't they?
Mm-hmm.
So it felt almost like like a Labrador, or it got quite a chunky dog.
Have you ever tried to speak to it? Like, come here, Fluffy. Like, whistle.
Only in the sense that sort of saying, oh, hello, or, if you're welcome to sit on the rug and I promise not to trip over you again, just make yourself known.
See, but my brain then goes to, because I definitely, as the years have gone on, my brain goes to most, if not all, of these things are connected somehow. So my brain is like, well, is it tasked by the beings that are around the bed telling you to go out the window to watch you? Is it connected to the head that stands outside in a suit, the man in black? Like, are they all, is it the same? Is the man in black the same beings that do end up in the bedroom and move the bed and tell you to go up,
I don't know. I didn't get a bad feeling from it. I get a very bad feeling from the man in black.
Yeah.
It was just an animal asleep. I think it felt more connected to the house or the stream or something connected to the earth and to the land.
I know that you have...
And I tripped over it.
I know that you have cats in the house. So, if you put food of any sort down, it's going to be gone or at least messed with. But I just wonder if you put food somewhere that the cats couldn't get to, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just probably a stupid thing, but just to see if it would interact with it. I don't know. I mean, does an invisible dog eat dog food? I don't know, but
I don't know. It just felt like a big animal.
Yeah. That's a cool one. I kind of like that one. I mean, I don't know if I like it when my brain starts going, well, is it tasked with watching you somehow? But you have enough watchers. What's one more, I suppose, right?
Yeah. I got the sense it was asleep or resting on the edge of the rug, and I just happened to walk across the room and trip over it.
Yeah. You just found a comfy spot. That's all.
Mm.
Tired of going through dimensions. Let's just stop for a nap at Debbie's house,
Yeah, why not?
All right, next up, the inhuman entity next door.
Oh. So this has gone on for a very long time. So we moved into this house 15 years ago. And as long as we have lived here, we have had something horrible next door. And it's like it would seep through every so often. There would be something nasty, and you would like sage the whole lot and it would go back. This house that we live in, it's round a core of it's got an ingle nook, so it's about 1650, so it's quite an old house. And the house that's attached next door is an infill from maybe 100 years old, and it covers a well. And I think whatever nasty thing was in the well, and it would come up and try and get into our house, and it's obviously affected the neighbors as well. There's been a history of just like people not staying very long, or sudden changes in personality, read some really, really nasty things. It got worse and worse, and we've just had new neighbours again. They've been there maybe a year, and they've been renovating the house again. So to start off with, we had a brownie from that house moved in here, which was like a little tiny figure about a foot tall, like a little person with a hat. And I could see it in the kitchen. It's been in the shower room, both of which adjoin the next door's house. And then the only other room that adjoins is, I've got a workroom, and it would be in there. And the workroom was the room that was most affected by all the negative things. So much so when this negative entity was coming through, the cats would refuse to go into that room entirely, wouldn't approach it, wouldn't touch it. Just no one would want to go into the room at all. Just really dark, horrible atmosphere. So I have a vague friend who's got a friend who was the one who actually got in contact with me about the person who was walking up and down the driveway. She said it was somebody called Arthur, and she was a medium or something, and she'd been in a group or whatever it is with this Arthur, and he died 15 years ago, and he was just watching out for us. And then she sent me a picture of him, and yes, that is the man that was walking up and down our driveway, and I had never met this man before.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So he was looking after us, and I then got another message from her. And I sent you the message in total, didn't I, about this is my meant path, that I've got to take on these really nasty creatures and deal with them. Like, excellent, thank you for that. So it got really intense, so much so that we were having a shadow figure in entirety come through the wall. None of the cats would go anywhere near that side of the house. Nobody wanted to go into that side of the house. There was, you just felt sick. We could not drive it back at all. And I got this message from this woman about it needs dealing with, and I would be able to deal with it, and that's my assigned role or whatever. And that night it came through in entirety, and it's the first time I have ever seen the whole thing. And I don't quite know how to describe it. There was an awful lot of sharp teeth. It was 7 or 8 feet tall, and it had come out of this well. And over 2 or 3 hours, and I don't know whether this was partially in person because I'd gone downstairs, or spiritually, or I don't know. I don't know how I did it, but I bound this creature and sent it to another dimension so it could not come back. And all I remember is opening almost like a camera aperture, when it sort of like twists open to another dimension, pushing this thing through and twisting this dimension, this portal shut so that it couldn't come back. And since then, the entire house is so much nicer, so much lighter. There are birdsong everywhere. The neighbours have commented how nice their house feels now, and they were actually thinking about moving because they weren't sure there was something wrong with the house. I then got another message that I had from this Arthur person, that I had managed to bind it and get rid of it, and that it was over and done with.
Did the neighbors ever see it as well as you did? In physical form, I mean?
No, they just felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
What it was like, I suppose the nearest thing I can say that it was very, very like was venom.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's a big bag of note
but
for
more
me.
Teeth.
More teeth.
But rows and rows of teeth. This black, oily, but scaly skin or like suit, whatever it was on it. Like it had these long fingers with like sharp nails or something on it. It's really difficult to describe, but it was like maybe 8-9 feet tall.
I mean, what's your best guess? And you're not gonna know, but would you label that an elemental? Would you label it an alien? What do you think it was?
The only thing I can think of is that they come from another dimension, and I have dealt with one thing like that before, which was in the house that I grew up in. Was a really, really horrible house, and it had an entity like that in it, and the house absolutely used to give me nightmares for decades, and it gave my sisters nightmares for decades. I did the same thing to that thing in that house that I did to the thing next door. They shouldn't be here. They need to be gone. And they're both gone.
Yeah, see, they messed with the wrong lady. You're like, come on in, buddy. I'll show you the door. Immediately.
I don't know how to I don't know how to explain it. That it was just, right, you're going and you need to go. And I'm going to much you will not be able to move an inch, and then you are no longer in this dimension. You're out of here.
Well, let's hope he doesn't come back. If I ever saw something that looked like venom, that's yeah, no thank you. All right, next on the list we have the figures on the footpath.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is again on the footpath. So this was about 4 days afterwards. So I'm still feeling a little bit wobbly from all of this things that have happened, and hoping that's the end of it. And we went for a walk, and you can walk down the path, and then you can walk down around sort of like a couple of fields and come back and double back down the footpath, which is what we tend to do. And so we'd walk down the path, absolutely fine, nothing there, came out onto the field, got to the corner of the field. There was the sound, and we both heard it. I was with my husband. We both heard the sound of about 100 birds all around us, all layered over one another in an absolute chorus of utter joy. They were everywhere, you know, layered in sort of like 5, 6, 7 deep, but you couldn't see any birds. There was none whatsoever. And it was just joyous. It was absolutely just like, whether that was a thank you for getting rid of a nuisance or I don't know, but it just felt absolutely joyous. We couldn't see anything at all. Couldn't see any birds at all. But it sounded like there were about 100 all round us in a circle. We were encircled by them. So we carried on walking and talking, trying to work out what was going on. And as we were coming back up towards the path, I was looking, so you can see into the path, and I've sent you a photo of my viewpoint across the field. And there's sort of like a little circular opening, and that happens to be where the holly grows up, where we'd heard that clicking noise and we'd had the FRAY. That's exactly where this happened. So we're walking back up towards the footpath. I'm like, why is somebody standing watching us? And why are they wearing silver? And why have they got light up like uniform? And why have they got really, really, really big eyes? And they're staring and watching us. And they were watching us move and walk around the field. And I'm like trying to work out what they are. And it looked like their eyes looked like, you know, a press photographer, those huge, great big lenses that they have on the cameras. Their eyes looked round, like they got two huge lenses attached to their face. And they were watching us. And I was like, why? You know, is it light coming through the trees? So the photo I sent you was from exactly where I spotted the figure first. And there's no light coming through the trees. And I walked straight towards the figure to ask what they were doing. And you can, in the photo I took, you can just about see the trail across the grass that I made. And you can see I walked straight, dead straight, did not take my eye off this figure at all, because they were lit up. There was like bright white light and silver and black bits, almost like a uniform. And then these huge, great big black eyes or lenses, whatever it was, over their face. And they were watching us. So I'm walking straight across towards this person. My husband's walking beside me, and we get about 3/4 of the way across. I have not taken my eyes off this person because I want to know, I don't want them to duck down and disappear. And he suddenly says, well, where are you going? And I said, I'm walking towards that person. He had been walking towards a person virtually the same, maybe 10 feet further along down the path that he could see. He was walking towards a different figure. He couldn't see my figure. I was only looking at my figure, so I can't tell you whether there was another one there or not. He didn't see my figure. And when I pointed it and said, I'm walking towards that figure, that it was like the light switched off on this figure's uniform or whatever it was, and they faded from sight. They literally faded out of vision, out of view. The top of their head reached the top of that hole in the hedgerow. And I also sent you a photo of me standing in the same place that they were standing in. And can you see the top of my head?
Oh, that's your head?
That's the top of my head.
Oh my, it was huge.
I know.
Oh, what the hell? No,
No, I'm 5'5". That's the top of my head.
Oh. I hadn't zoomed in on that one yet. I didn't know that was your head. So now
That's the top of my head.
When you go off of that for height comparison, that's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Oh, gracious me. These photos that you're mentioning, are they just for me or?
Oh, no, you can just put them. Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind.
All right. Yeah. So everybody, that'll be in the pictures she's mentioning will be in the show notes for this episode at intothefrayradio.com. And then you also mentioned during this time there was a military helicopter that went over.
So I wish I had paid more attention to the military helicopters. So as
Debbie, I'm so sorry. There's something rubbing so bad on the computer or something. Just when you're talking, something is like rubbing.
How about now?
That's better. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So I wish I'd made more notes about the military helicopters, because as we got to the hedgerow, 2 military helicopters appeared out of nowhere and buzzed really low over the hedgerow. I'm talking maybe 50 feet in the air. We have had them when I had the radio and the iPad play the Poltergeist podcast, they were buzzing low over the house. When we've had things go on out in the garden, we've had them buzzing in the night. You can't see them. They are not supposed to be flying during the night, but we have them at the back of the house. When we've been there a couple of times before, and I can't remember whether it was when there's things happening, we've had them buzzing low over the hedgerow again.
You hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from you guys that have these varying experiences, is these military helicopters that just seem to be around. And sometimes they're silent. I mean, Mark on my last episode was talking about a very silent black helicopter, but they're not always that way.
No, they just appear out of nowhere. You can't they're just suddenly there. They're always really low over the house or over the hedgerow.
So next up we have a light in the sky and the face at the window.
Yeah, so this was October. Yeah, so October, and we're just saying goodbye. So this is midnight. So I do tend to sometimes write time on the thing, so I know it was midnight. If I can write a time or weather or whatever, I will do on my notes. And so we're just saying goodbye to our eldest daughter, who is going home. We were outside the house, and there was a star fairly low in the sky, and it was in the northeast, and it was weird because it was slightly, it was white, then went yellow, then went reddish, then went, it wasn't a plane, it was maybe twice the size of the ISS, if you ever see that going past. That's quite bright. And it was making sort of like little, it just didn't look right. It had like a funny wobbly movement, and it was changing color but making no noise, and going pink and red and then bright and then flaring into white. So we were both like, I don't really like this, so we're hurrying to get indoors, and then cleared up, and maybe 5-10 minutes later we're going up to bed. I went into our bedroom and went to draw the curtains, and I generally do not look outside the windows when I draw the curtains closed. And on the outside the window was a little pale figure looking in. I don't know if it was the same thing as the one that was on the landing, but it had a little round grey head, very Gollum-like, big eyes, looking in the window, no ears, and it saw me and ducked down out of sight.
And again, this is a second story window, right?
Yep. We have got a single story extension underneath it, but which it could have been standing on the roof, but it would have had to have been 3 or 4 foot high to look in the window.
And just yet another example of why Debbie doesn't look out that window.
I don't look out the window.
No, it's not good.
No.
Bad things happen when you look out that damn window.
Yeah, exactly. The cat sometimes sits on the window and looks out. She refused to go anywhere near that window.
Yeah, once especially, I think the animals are saying that's a big bag of nope, is when a lot of the rest of us even start to pay attention. But I know that you pay attention to that stuff because you see it yourself. All right, so now we're going to move locations. October 14th to the 18th, you guys had a trip to Norfolk, and it
Yeah.
seems like quite a bit went down there.
Yeah. So we had been working really hard. So we wanted to just get away because we'd been just on a huge, great big exhibition in London. So we just wanted to disappear off for a few days. So we went up where we normally go to North Norfolk, and it started almost as soon as we arrived at the Airbnb. So we arrived after dark on the 14th, got into the place. I was just outside pulling stuff out of the car, you know, emptying the cases or whatever from the car, and all of a sudden a light clicked on in the stars above me, directly above my head. It moved, I would say, maybe an inch at arm's length. So looking up into the sky, moved about an inch of the sky over my head, and then clicked out. So it was like a light switch on, we know you're there, move, fade off, click out, gone. That was within 20 minutes of arriving. So I thought, okay, that's going to be really, I'm just going to go in and get some wine now. Went into the house, drew all the curtains, shut the door, refused to do anything, go outside again for the rest of the night. There was a little ghost dog in the house, like a fox terrier type thing, you know, like a tin dog, like a little white thing running around. That was there the first evening. So I thought, okay, that's fine. That's all right. Got up the next morning, went for a walk on the path through the woods that we normally do. And again, a very weird thing happened. I think that it was annoyed that there had just been a really big group go through. We got into as we were putting into the car park, there was a huge, great big group of dog walkers and, you know, fairly, like, you know, 20 or 30 people. And I don't know whether that had upset what was on the path. But we went down the path. It was really unwelcoming. There was no sound at all. It felt cold and like harsh. And we're wandering along thinking, this isn't particularly nice. And the path at that point is maybe 6-8 feet wide, really wide. And my foot, I hit a tree root growing across the path. And I stumbled a little. And it felt like both feet hit an invisible wall. And it felt like someone or something grabbed my elbow, almost to stop me falling over. So, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move my feet for a couple of minutes. It was just like, no, you are staying here. You are not moving. And at the same time, I could hear voices in the woods around us, sort of like talking to one another, where you can't quite hear what somebody's saying, but you can hear that it's two voices at least. So we carried on, and we got maybe another quarter of a mile out of where the real FRAY area is of this path. And I'm just like, where that thing touched my arm is absolutely burning. It is burning. It's like an acid burn. Really, really, really burning. So I should say as well, I had 3 layers of clothing on. 4 because I had another like little slip on, but I'd got 3 layers of long sleeves on because it was cold to start off with. So I had on a waterproof coat, and then I had on a wool layer, which was done up, and then I had on a long sleeved shirt. So we carried on walking, and I had to say, look, after about a quarter mile, look, can you check my arm? It is absolutely burning. It feels like somebody has drilled acid on it. So I had to strip off in the middle of the path, and there was this gooey, mossy green smear on my arm, and bruises starting to form like something had gripped my arm. I don't know how it got through 3 layers of clothing. I've sent you pictures of the goo on my arm. The only thing that was visible was this little patch when I took the shirt off later on the inside of the shirt. There was nothing on the outside, nothing on the wool layer, nothing on the like the waterproof jacket.
Yeah, I have
something.
I have the pictures open now, and I have to say I didn't realize that you had all these layers on, and then this was underneath of it, right? Because I mean, rightfully so. You didn't put all the details in. You know how I like to be surprised. So, not only that, but you can see some bruising going on. In fact, I mean, I'd hazard to say like a finger or size bruise. I can see very well above where this goo is.
Yeah.
That is weird.
And I still can't explain it.
How long? I mean, was it hard to get the goo off?
No. Came off in the shower beautifully. But it was like a combination of moss and mud. But I was 4-5 feet from the nearest tree trunk that would have anything like that on. How does it go through 3 layers of clothing?
Right.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Don't understand it at all.
That is very strange considering you had layer upon layer. I don't quite know how that would happen. And the burning would be quite unpleasant. I would be like, what the hell is this?
The burning lasted about 24 hours. And it felt like an acid burn. It was burning. It was... And there was I think there was like 3 finger, or you could almost say they were finger marks, and almost a thumb mark on the other side.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's weird, isn't it? I cannot explain how it went through 3 layers of clothing.
All right, so last thing on the list, and this is still here while you're on holiday, is the reptilian in the bedroom.
Yep. Well, we carried on. I would say that the whole thing carried on for the entire week. So we carried on after I'd stripped off all my clothing off. There was a shadow figure on that path. And I've only seen a shadow figure on that path when it's been negative. We went back the next day because I want to poke the bear. So we went back the next day, and it was completely different. It was as though, we're really sorry that we were unwelcoming yesterday, and there was birdsong, and there were deer, and it was absolutely different. And you could see the Fae sitting in the trees being happy that we were there. Completely different. That's why I think it was possibly they were disturbed by the huge group wandering through, and we just happened to get the tail end of it.
What did the Fae look like, the ones in the trees?
They were about the size of a cat, and there was a smaller one, and they were in dark clothing, and they were sat in the trees looking down at us. We had to stop walking maybe 3 times because there were deer stood on the path. And it was almost as though, we're really sorry about yesterday, so we're now going to give you like a little, nature wonderland just to say sorry.
Did your husband see the fae in the tree?
He didn't see the fae in the tree. He saw the goo. He saw how unwelcoming it was the first day. He saw how completely different it was the second day. Fae are very good at making you see something different. So I've seen them before where you will see them right in front of your face and blink, and then when you look again, it looks like a bird or a butterfly or something. They're very good at making you see something else.
Yeah, so what is this reptilian in the bedroom?
So final night, reptilian in the bedroom. So it had been quite an eventful few days. So was just reading in bed, then going to sleep, and I rolled over, and there was a reptilian standing in the corner of the bedroom. Never seen one before, but it was just standing there, staring. It had on like this like tabardy sort of top thing. Just stood watching it. And I did actually go, tell it to F off in those words, because I wasn't in the mood to be bothered, and rolled over and went to sleep, or tried to go to sleep, and rolled back over and looked again maybe 5-10 minutes later, and it was still there, and it was just still standing and staring and observing and watching. And so I told it to F off again. And really, no, I did mean it. I am not playing. Go away. Rolled back over and went to sleep. And it was gone when I woke up.
And can you describe its face as best you can?
Like a lizard. Quite broad. But so almost like top half was a bit like a Komodo dragon, but not such a broad nose, but it had quite a much broader chin and lower half of its face, and it was just staring. It was just staring standing and staring, just observing.
Why do you think you would see it there on holiday, but not at home or in the path at home or something like that?
I think because I have thought a lot about this, and I think because I have a lot of protection at home, and I put a lot of protection in at work, and I was somewhere that had no protection.
I mean, it's really gotten to the point where now you wherever you go, if there's something there, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with Debbie. So like you're going to have to put wards up every single place that you go.
Yeah. Or get put wards up, basically put a personal ward around myself. And I think that's why the light in the sky clicked on above me when we arrived. It was like, oh, you're there. Not you're somewhere that can be observed. And that's all it did. It stood in the corner of the room and was just watching. It wasn't negative and it wasn't positive. It was just watching. It was probably 6 foot tall and quite broad. And it had on like a blue silvery tabardy thing.
The clothing thing with some of these entities is, I just don't know what to make of the clothing. You know, where he's from, is a clothing like a bar that someone in the services would wear, you know, as far as their rank goes. You know, this reptilian dude was in this blue outfit. What? I guess they like clothing too. They don't want to be immodest. I mean, I don't know. Things like that just fascinate me. This reptilian dude in clothing.
Yeah. It almost felt like a uniform. Whether they all wear a uniform, whether they all have different colors, I don't know. But that's what it was in.
That's so interesting to me. Those are the things that, I mean, not that he himself is not strange, of course, but you've already got something strange and then he's wearing freaking clothing. I don't, you know what I mean? Like you said, it seems like a uniform. Oh, it's so strange. But at least he seems to have stayed where he was, or as you say, you have enough protection up at home and at work that, well, he's not going to be popping up in your house, in your bedroom.
First time I've ever seen anything like that.
And hopefully the last.
Yeah. Yes. And it's almost like you get used to everything. As I was saying that I've only put down the big things that have happened, not the day-to-day things. And so you get used to seeing all these things and even seeing that, I was just like, oh, there's one of those in the corner. I've never seen one of those before, but you can go away.
Yeah, you're like, add that to the list. Okay, now, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, the list is shorter of what you haven't seen, right? I mean, now at this point, now you have a reptilian added to the list.
I don't know. I don't know. It had scales, looked like a Komodo dragon-y sort of, that, like a reptile. Had a tabard on with a like blue, silvery, and was just standing very matter of fact, just watching. If I have to say anything, it probably had like a belt thing around its waist, wherever, but I can't say anything else. It was just stood there.
A tabard outfit, it is almost like seems medieval.
It didn't have armor on.
Did it have anything on its head?
No. No, not at all.
Do you suppose if you had gotten up out of bed and walked over to it, that it would have interacted with you?
Possibly. It understood that I was telling it to go away.
Yeah. Right. So that's definitely not some kind of a residual thing. Yeah. Which we always talk about for ghosts, but, you know, not all of these things seem very interactive. But yeah, you're right. If you said F off and it did, then that's pretty dang interactive. Yeah, at least he listens well. I mean, you know.
It took twice. I did have to tell it to F off twice.
Oh, that's strange. You just got a little robotic. Isn't that funny? It's hanging in, and now it sounds like it's starting to go. That's, well,
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was weird. It was a little tiny bit robotic, and then it corrected itself. Well, Whoever is listening, thank you for letting Debbie tell all of her encounters without any problems. I appreciate that, even though you made her go through 3 computers, or 2 to find the third that would work. But, well, I know that you will continue to keep your journal. You just do that for your own purposes, which is very smart to do. And I would hazard to say we'll probably in another several months do part 5 or a Patreon chat or something. But I thank you for being willing to come on and share what's gone on in the last 7 months.
You're welcome. I just want to understand. I just want to know what's going on. And I think I'm edging towards an understanding of things, and then it changes.
Right.
Or something else happens, and you think, no, I don't understand that. I need to think about this a bit more. Like, how can something go through 3 layers of clothing? without leaving a trace.
I mean, in your
I don't
mind,
understand that.
as things go on more and more, are you also of the mind that each and every one of these things is connected somehow?
I think so. I think whether it's all energy and they use energy to transfer or move between places, or whether they're all the same thing, whether I don't know. I think a lot of it is connected.
Well, I know that you will in Discord, and then we've got our separate little chat with you, myself, and Shanna. But, you know, once, as mentioned during that Patreon live chat, we had things kicked up and not in a good way, not in this happy FRAY, you know, in the trees smiling way. I hope that you, again, sitting down and being willing to go through all of this back to back. I hope that nothing kicks up, but let me know if it does.
I will do. I feel safer having dealt with the thing next door, and I feel safer having wards up all the way around the house.
Yes, Roy is a badass for things like that. He is excellent at things like that.
Yeah. I feel much safer, and things can't get through.
And if they do, you tell them to F off, which is why I love you.
Yeah, I do. It just got me, like, we were supposed to have a relaxing, 3 or 4 days before going back to work, and it was not a relaxing 3 or 4 days before going back to work.
Yeah.
It was, and that was the last night, and I was just like, oh, just F off. Leave me alone.
Well, these things just never respect boundaries or personal space or holiday, or as you say, 3 days before going back to work and you just want to relax. So that's when those two words are warranted. So
it was just like reflex, just F off.
Yeah.
I just want to understand.
Unfortunately, that's what we all say, right? That we've seen these strange things. That's why we keep consuming the podcast and talking to each other and reading the books, and it definitely becomes basically an obsession in a way, I suppose. And I really don't think that we will understand. I mean, that's probably a very negative way to look at it, but it doesn't mean that we should stop trying, right?
No.
In no way, shape, or form will we, because this is a fascination for all of us, and especially those of us that are over on the Patreon side. I mean, we just compare and contrast all day long, and we all love it, and that's good. And if that makes us nerds or freaks, well, by God, we're fine with that.
I can't help being the way I am, and that's what you've just got to say.
Yeah, absolutely, and we don't want you to change anyway. So